Imagine living in a country where millions can vote, but the most powerful man is never on the ballot. He does not rise through party politics. He does not answer to parliament. And for decades, his authority stood above presidents, laws, and elections. So how did a religious scholar become more powerful than the state itself? To answer that, we have to go back far beyond modern Iran, far beyond revolutions, constitutions, and oil. We have to return to the 7th century, to the death of the Prophet Muhammad, and to a question that never stopped haunting the Islamic world. Who had the right to lead after him? Muhammad had unified much of Arabia under a new religious and political order. But when he died in the year 632, the community faced a crisis. There was no universally accepted written blueprint for political succession, no settled constitutional mechanism, no modern institution waiting to take over. Very quickly, two different views began to take shape. One view held that leadership should be decided through consultation among respected members of the community. From that understanding, Abu Bakr, a close companion of Muhammad and his father-in-law, became the first caliph or successor. But another view saw leadership as something more than practical governance. For those believers, the question was not simply who could keep order, it was who possessed rightful, sacred legitimacy. They believed leadership should remain within the Prophet's family, specifically through Ali, Muhammad's cousin and son-in-law, who was married to Fatima, the Prophet's daughter. Over time, the supporters of Ali became known as the Shia, from Shi'at Ali, the party of Ali. Those who followed the broader caliphal tradition eventually became identified with Sunni Islam. At the time, this was a dispute over succession. But history rarely leaves such disputes untouched. Across generations, that split deepened into differences in theology, law, ritual, and political memory. Today, Sunni Muslims remain the global majority, while Shia Muslims make up roughly 10 to 13% of the world's Muslim population. Important Shia populations are concentrated in countries such as Iran and Iraq, with major communities elsewhere as well. For Shia Muslims, however, the story did not stop with Ali. In Shia thought, Ali was not merely an early political claimant, he was the first Imam. And in this context, an Imam is not just a prayer leader or a ruler, he is a divinely guided authority, entrusted with the correct understanding of God's message and the moral leadership of the community. In Twelver Shia belief, this sacred authority passed through a line of descendants from Ali and Fatima. Not every Shia branch agreed on the same line of succession. But the largest Shia tradition today is Twelver Shi'ism, which recognizes a line of 12 Imams. According to Twelver belief, the 12th of these, Muhammad ibn al-Hassan al-Mahdi, was born around 870 CE, then passed into concealment. This became one of the defining ideas in Shia theology. Twelver tradition speaks of two stages of this concealment, or occultation. The first was the minor occultation, commonly dated from 874 to 941, when the hidden Imam was believed to communicate through appointed representatives. The second was the major occultation, beginning in 941 and continuing to the present. In this phase, the Imam remains alive by God's will, but hidden from the world until his eventual return. That belief created a profound problem. If the rightful Imam exists but cannot be seen, who decides difficult questions in the meantime? Who interprets divine law? Who settles disputes? Who guides believers through changing times? The answer emerged slowly, over centuries. In the absence of the visible Imam, Shia scholars took on a greater role. They did not claim to replace him, but they became the interpreters of law, the guardians of doctrine, and the guides of everyday religious life. This authority was especially shaped in major Shia centers of learning such as Najaf in Iraq and Qom in Iran. Out of that world of scholarship came a hierarchy of religious authority. Some clerics rose far above others in prestige and learning. Among the titles associated with this upper level was Ayatollah, a term that literally means sign of God. In Shia usage, it does not mean the man is divine. It means he is recognized as a scholar of exceptional religious authority. A still higher honor, Grand Ayatollah, is associated with those whose expertise in Islamic law qualifies them as a marja al-taqlid, a source of emulation whom believers may follow in legal and moral matters. In most Shia communities, that authority is powerful, but indirect. A senior cleric may shape opinion. He may influence politics. He may criticize rulers or inspire movements. But he is not automatically the ruler of the state. That is what made Iran different. Because in Iran, the authority of the jurist did not remain in the seminary. It moved into the constitution. To understand how that happened, we have to move forward many centuries into the modern age. In the 20th century, Iran underwent a forceful campaign of state-led modernization under the Pahlavi monarchy. Reza Shah sought to centralize power, weaken old religious and tribal structures, expand state institutions, and model Iran in part on European styles of governance and public life. One of the most controversial moments came on January 8, 1936, when he issued the decree known as Kashf al-Hijab, banning the public wearing of Islamic veils. The measure was enforced coercively, and many religious families saw it not as liberation, but as humiliation imposed from above. His son, Mohammad Reza Pahlavi, continued the broader modernization project. Urban growth, industrial development, secular institutions, and reformist programs changed Iranian society. But so did widening inequalities, tighter repression, and resentment toward foreign influence, especially Western influence. For many religious critics, the monarchy came to symbolize not simply modernization, but the erosion of Islamic identity under authoritarian rule. Among those critics, one cleric became central, Ruhollah Khomeini. Khomeini did more than condemn the Shah. He developed a doctrine, and that doctrine changed Iranian politics forever. Its name was velayat-e faqih, usually translated as guardianship of the jurist. The idea rested on a bold claim. If the hidden imam is absent, then a qualified Islamic jurist should not merely advise society on religious questions. He should exercise political authority in order to preserve Islamic rule and protect the community. This was a major departure from the quieter, more restrained role many Shia scholars had traditionally occupied. Khomeini transformed a theory of religious supervision into a blueprint for government. As protests against the Shah grew through the late 1970s, Khomeini's message spread through sermons, recordings, writings, religious networks, and popular discontent. In 1979, the monarchy collapsed. A national referendum held on March 30th and 31st, 1979, established Iran as an Islamic Republic, and the constitution adopted that year embedded the principle of clerical guardianship into the state itself. This new system did not abolish elections. Iran still had a president. It still had a parliament. It still held votes. But above those elected institutions stood a higher office, the supreme leader. Under Iran's constitutional order, the supreme leader stands at the apex of the state and the clerical oversight system. The constitution gives the office major powers, including command over the armed forces and influence over the judiciary and other state institutions. The leader is chosen by the Assembly of Experts, a body of Islamic jurists elected by the public, although the candidates themselves must first pass through the vetting structure of the system. Another powerful institution is the Guardian Council. The Guardian Council reviews legislation and oversees elections. Under the Constitution, it supervises elections for the presidency, parliament, the Assembly of Experts, and referenda. In practice, it also vets candidates before they are allowed to run, placing clear limits on political competition. That is why Iran is often described as a hybrid system. It contains elections, public campaigns, and republican institutions. but these operate under religious supervision, within boundaries enforced by clerical bodies. Supporters say this protects the moral and Islamic character of the state. Critics say it sharply restricts pluralism and genuine democratic choice. When Ayatollah Khamenei died in 1989, he was succeeded as supreme leader by Ali Khamenei. Khamenei then led Iran for more than 3 decades, presiding over one of the most consequential phases in the history of the Islamic Republic. He remained the central figure in Iran's political and ideological system until the end of February 2026. Now comes the update that changes the final chapter of this story. On March 1st, 2026, reports stated that Ayatollah Ali Khamenei had been killed in US-Israeli strikes. His death triggered only the second transition of supreme leadership since the 1979 revolution. As of March 2nd, 2026, Iran had entered a succession period involving a provisional leadership arrangement, while the next supreme leader is chosen by the assembly of experts. That means the story of the Ayatollah in Iran is not only historical, it is unfolding right now. The office that once transformed religious scholarship into constitutional rule has entered a new and dangerous moment of transition. Whoever follows Khamenei will inherit not just a title, but a system built on the claim that sacred authority can govern a modern state. So what, in the end, is an Ayatollah? He is a senior Shia jurist, recognized for deep expertise in Islamic law. In the broader Shia world, such a figure usually serves as a guide, a teacher, and a moral authority. But in Iran, the concept evolved into something larger. There, one Ayatollah became the guardian of the entire political order. That transformation did not happen in a single moment. It was built across centuries, from the succession crisis after Muhammad's death, to the doctrine of the Imams, to the occultation of the Hidden Imam, to the rise of jurists, to Khomeiни's revolutionary theory, and finally, to a modern state where theology and government were fused together. And perhaps that is the deepest tension of all. In Twelver Shia belief, the rightful perfect guide has not returned yet. Earthly authority, no matter how powerful, remains provisional beside that promise. So even at the height of clerical power, there is still an absence at the center of the system. A waiting, a suspended claim, a reminder that the final authority, in this worldview, belongs not to history's rulers, but to the Imam yet to come. History often tells us that religion and politics should be studied separately. Iran suggests otherwise. Here, theology became law. Law became institutions. Institutions shaped power, and power reshaped a nation. That is why the Ayatollah is not simply a cleric, not simply a scholar, and, in Iran's case, not simply a symbol. He became the keeper of a political order built on sacred legitimacy. And now, with Ali Khamenei dead and a succession battle underway, that order has entered one of the most uncertain moments in its history. Thank you for watching all the way to the end. If you enjoy calm, serious history told with context and clarity, please subscribe and join us again. And if there is another subject you would like us to explore, leave it in the comments below. I will see you in the next video.